Good evening, dear EWB members and followers. Welcome to the EWB Thursday series of webinars. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we are hosting Khayriniso Gulomaydarova, who will be talking about pre-teaching vocabulary. But before Khayriniso Gulomaydarova starts her webinar, let me introduce our speaker. Khayriniso Gulomaydarova graduated from Khorog State University with a diploma in English. She earned her master's degree in Sociology from Osmania University in Hyderabad, India. Khayriniso's first teaching experience started in 2002 at secondary school number 1 in Khorog. In 2010, she joined the School of Professional and Continuous Education of the University of Central Asia, and up to the present, she has been involved in different English programs, teaching in the Conversational English Program, Academic Achievement Program, and Post Graduate Preparatory course. In 2014-2017, Khayriniso worked as an expatriate teacher at the SPCE learning centers in Badakhshan province of Afghanistan, where she delivered professional development workshops for young English teachers, did co-teaching, helped the teachers with designing lesson plans, and conducted speaking clubs for English teachers and English learners. Khayriniso was a presenter at the KTEC conference in 2013 with the topic Critical Thinking Through Sounds. Khayriniso is the recipient of 3 Cambridge English certificates: Teaching Knowledge Test, TKT, Cambridge Assessment Test, CAT, and Preliminary English Test, PET. And recently, she completed a media literacy course. So we are very happy to host Khayriniso today, and we are thanking you, our audience, for joining us, and we will be waiting for your interesting questions about today's topic. And now I'm giving the floor to Khayriniso. Khayriniso, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to see all of you here, and welcome to my presentation. And I hope you will enjoy it. So let's first share my presentation with you. Okay, so can you see that? So, just a minute. So before starting our presentation, I would like to ask you some questions. Can you please go through this question and then just share with me this question? Like the first question here is to, like, how do you usually teach vocabulary in your listening, reading, writing, and speaking? And when do you usually teach vocabulary? And why do we need to teach vocabulary? And should we teach every single words? Just give you some minutes to think. Okay, shall we start? So, like Firuz is telling us that we teach it using pre, during, and while reading, listening, speaking. I mostly use flashcards, body language, miming, gesture. Very good, very good. Sometimes realia. Well done. usually at the beginning of the lesson. Okay, you start teaching at the beginning of the lesson, pre-teaching vocabulary, I mean, through elicitation of eliciting the pictures, and I pre-teach before moving to the text. Good. Through pictures, don't start saying. Only target language. Very good. Thank you. So, okay, before the main skill focus, using different activities, Firuze is saying. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for your answers. So, well done. You know that most of like our traditional way, we teach vocabulary before, like some people teach it like they teach reading, for example, they pick up some vocabulary from that and they elicit maybe, and they tell the translation of this word, they make sentences with that. And there are some other ways, for example, in order to make your reading, your listening more, for example, some of the reading and listening are very confusing. And I would suggest you some ways in order to make your listening, reading, or maybe writing more effective. I would suggest you some ways. So, pre-teach vocabulary inductively. So we pre-teach vocabulary inductively. This means that usually, as I already mentioned, we did it deductively. Like first we teach the article, and after that, or we do the reading, and after that we pick up some vocabulary and we teach that. But this way, we do it before our listening or before our reading. That's why we call it inductively. So pre-teach blocking vocabulary inductively. Blocking vocabulary, you know that these are some vocabulary from the reading part, or from the writing, or from the listening, which are not, which students do not understand. And we should select this vocabulary, like they should be important words, not everything, but they should be relevant to the level of the students, and also they should be important in order students should understand the text, because there are a lot of them and there's no need to tell all of them. And you can just select maybe 3 to 5 vocabulary. So this will help you to check students' prior knowledge of the word, and also it helps like the understanding the concept of the reading to which it relates. And also, as we know that there are a lot of words in English, and it depends on the situation and the context. They have got different meaning, and that's why this kind of teaching, pre-teaching, helps us and helps also students to know, to be aware that there are a lot of meanings of them, and they have different meaning and different contexts. So, as you already mentioned, before starting, this is usually very effective for secondary school teachers. I do remember in one of the seminar, I saw one teacher brought a lot of realia to her lessons, which made it very, how to say, interesting. For example, she brought a lot of vegetables, and this way makes students like this arouse their interest into the class, and at the same time it makes them like never forget the words. And this is like this is one way, and another way it is providing pictures. I think all teachers already have done this kind of pre-teaching, like they do provide pictures, for example, the pictures of the city, sports, and any other things. And when they, for example, they do it usually through elicitation. And I usually do it, for example, I elicit the word, I show the pictures, or I show the reality to the students. And after that, I write it on the board and I ask them, I do some drilling. For example, I first ask individually to repeat the words and then orally. So this is also helps students to remember these words, these blocking words forever. And another way it is like providing situation. For example, not only like bringing pictures or being in realia into the class. Also, for example, there is nothing to show. You can just provide some situation. I remember in one of my training, one of my trainer, she provided situation for eavesdropping. You know what is eavesdropping? And this, from that day, this word became my favorite one. I will never forget this because the way she did it in a very good way, and I will never forget. She provided a very good situation for that. And some teachers, to be honest, I am not very good at drawing the picture, but sometimes I try to be a very good drawer. So this is also a very good way, like to elicit the word from them. To elicit word from the students, like you can draw pictures and they just guess what is this, and then you write it on the board. And another way it is miming. Like you show the action and students guess what is this, and you elicit, and then you can write it on the board. And the next one is play the sounds of animals. If you want to teach some animals or objects, like you can play the sounds of them. And again, you have to drill it. You ask students to repeat after you individually and then orally, which also helps them to remember the meaning and to remember the words, okay? And after that, by the hand of each, for example, each way of pre-teaching vocabulary, you should always use concept check questions, like in order to make sure that whether students really understood the meaning of this word. So, like now, let me show you one video, and after showing this, you can tell me what kind of pre-teaching vocabulary was that. Okay. Sounds.
So let's start. Now, can you look at this picture? What can you see in this picture?
Coffee and
It is a food. So what do you think? What kind of food is that?
roll.
So what is the name of this food?
Chinese
Okay, so this is, I can tell this is Japanese food.
Sushi.
Very good, well done. So this is what? Sushi. Have you ever eaten sushi? No? Would you like to test it?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you think? Is sushi a verb, a noun, an adjective? What do you think? Is sushi a noun, a verb? So this is a noun. Okay, so sushi is a
Okay, what is it made of?
Fish and rice.
Rice and
Vegetables.
vegetables. Okay, very good. Now listen. So, yesterday I was walking along the street and a man was walking after me. And when he came closer to me, he was talking to me, but I didn't understand him. And there was something like a very bad smell. So what do you think? Why I didn't understand his language? Of course, he was speaking Tamilian language, but I couldn't understand. But and there was another kind of smell, very bad smell. So what do you think? Why he behaved like that? He was. What do you think? Why men usually, for example, behave like that? If there is any smell. He's what?
Drunk.
Sorry? Drunk. He was a drunken. What do you think? What did he use? Very good. Alcohol. Alcohol. So alcohol, is it noun, verb, adjective? What is this?
No.
This is noun. Have you ever used alcohol in your life?
No.
So what do you think? Yes?
No.
So what do you think? What kind of drink refer to alcohol?
Whiskey.
Whiskey? What else? Vodka? Okay.
Bourbon. Bourbon.
So is it a juice fruit?
No.
No. Is it a strong drink?
Yes.
Is it green tea?
No.
Is it black tea?
No.
Is it bad for health?
Yes.
Well done. So, next. So, I wanted to spend my holiday in the country, out of the city. I imagined that I would spend it in a very good way. I would go swimming, and everything will be very good, and I will enjoy my time. But when I went there, it was totally different. So it was not sunny. It was raining all the day. So what do you think? What kind of holiday was it? It starts with letter D. It starts with letter D. Something that happens, a situation that has a very bad result. Yes? Drink.
Yeah.
With a very bad result. It was not good. What I expect. It is a. What is it? Disaster. So what is this? Disaster. It was a disaster holiday. It was not a good holiday. So do you think disaster a verb, noun, adjective? What is this?
No.
It is a noun. Okay. So have you ever had a disaster? For example, something you expected to stand very well, but it happened very, how to say, not so good. Have you had it in your life?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so this is what we call a disaster. So once again, a type of food, a Japanese food, we call it sushi. A type of drink, it is alcohol. And a very bad situation, the result of a very bad situation. This is a disaster. Okay, so what do you think? What was like the pre-teaching vocabulary? What way did I use here?
Dear participants, you can unmute yourself and say your comments. so we can hear you, or you can type your answers to the chat box.
Okay, Donisa is writing like pigs, yes. Situation, okay. So, yes, I provide first situation and then I use elicitation. I elicit the answers from the student. And then I used CCQs, yes, concept check questions in order to make sure that they understood it or not. Okay, very good, thank you. So, next, so let's have a look. So another way, so these type of pre-teaching vocabulary, they were for especially for secondary school teachers, because as we noticed that most of the secondary school teachers, they're not happy with their textbooks, and they just, as I observed, they just always ask students to translate the words into Russian or Tajik language. But these are the ways in order to make their life easier, in order to make their reading more effective and interesting. So another way, like this is also can be used for, you can use it at the school, but also you can use another way for pre-teaching vocabulary for academic school, for academic skills, like listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So the first way, it is through association. For example, you elicit the vocabulary through association. This is how you can, for example, write on the board a word. As an example here, the word tasty. Can you hear me? And you can ask them, like, there are questions. What do students think or see in their minds? For example, when they look at the word tasty, this is just an example. And then you can ask them, like, what comes to your mind? What do you think of or see in your mind when you hear these words? And students can think of any words or things they know that are associated with tasty and come up with the words like something like delicious, for example, ice cream, fried chicken, French fries, steak, ice cream, and things like that. So this is the thing that they just connect a visual image to the new word in order to remember the meaning of this new word. So this is what we call, it is association. And you can use it in your reading when, for example, you give before reading any articles or any text, you can use this way to pre-teach the vocabulary, blocking vocabulary. And another way is, it is also pre-reading and pre-listening activity. It is a vocabulary and comprehension strategy, which is called concept sort. Like students are sorting out the words, and they sorry. So students, it helps students to apply their critical thinking by creating categories for groups of the word on each word's meaning. For example, you select some words from the text, or maybe you can just ask your student to choose the words that they don't know. And you usually provide the list by yourself. If, for example, your students are not, they do not have this kind of experience, you can just give them the list before, and then you can ask them to sort. So categorizing can be either a closed sort, like predefined by the teacher, like you define the name, the categories yourself, and you give them to sort out the words. Or another word, it is an open sort. you just give them the name of the words, and they just name it. They divide it into different groups themselves if they have a very good experience in sorting. And after that, they have done it, you can ask them, like, why do they think that each word fits into the named categories? This is another way, another pre-teaching vocabulary, like, which makes students' life easier. And this is a way, how do they sort it? For example, some students, like, they just do it like that. They sort out, like, some of the words into people, feelings, actions, or some other things. And also they come up with their own categories. For example, they can divide them into animals, into the sounds, and different things. So another thing is, like, it is word part. You know, like in English, there are a lot of, we know, all of us are teachers, and we know some words are derived from different languages, for example, from Greek or from some other languages. And therefore, you teachers, just you need to select again some words, and then ask students, like, to break them into pieces, and tell them, like, which is the prefix, for example, which is the root. And then they make connection between the how to say, the root and the prefix or the suffix. And here is you can see, like, some of them, they come up with the definition of the words, and they make sentences with that. And then you ask them, what part of speech is it? And maybe you can elicit the antonyms or the synonyms of this word. Like, for example, here the examples, like out, to hear, audience, audition, or circum, which means around, and circumference or circumstance. And then they just break this into unfamiliar words, like prefixes, suffixes, and the roots, and then they understand the meaning of this word. So let me share you another video, and here you again watch this video and tell me what kind of way, what way did I use here?
So, before reading this article, can you just answer to some of my questions? Have you ever heard this word, result?
Yeah.
What do you think? So, when you hear this word, what comes to your mind? What can you think of? What is in your mind?
Beaches.
Beaches.
Vacation.
Vacations.
Hotel.
Beach. Vacation. What else?
Sunset.
Sunset.
Beautiful places.
Beautiful places.
Hotels. Souvenirs.
Very good. Beautiful places, and what else?
Hotels.
Okay, what else?
Relaxation.
Relaxing.
Yeah, relaxation, as they said, ocean maybe.
Okay, ocean.
How about holiday?
Holiday, having
Yeah.
a holiday. So, resort. Yes? So it means that when you go, this is the place,
Yeah. Place for holiday, for spending holiday.
Very good. This is the place for spending a holiday. Okay. Result. Yes. Can you say result? Can you repeat after me? Result.
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 Yes, Tahmina?
Result.
Result.
Result. Result.
Result. Together?
Result.
Very good. Another word. So, malnutrition. So, malnutrition, how many, let's just first break these words into parts, okay? So, the word nutrition, what do you think? What is it? What does it have to do with?
It's food.
Food. Very good. This is food. And mal means
It's less. Something is less.
something is less.
Lack. Not
Lack.
enough.
So let's connect them.
Less of nutrition.
Yes.
Less of food, less of nutrition.
Okay, not being able to have enough food.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Malnutrition. Can you say malnutrition?
Malnutrition.
Malnutrition. Malnutrition.
Malnutrition. Malnutrition.
Together?
Malnutrition.
Well done. So, result, do you think result is it a verb, adjective, adverb, what is it?
Noun.
This is
Noun.
noun, and malnutrition is
Also noun.
Also noun. Okay. Very good. So, So, now let's listen to some of the word, and can you please put them under the correct category? So, weather, family, personality. So, the word scorching,
Weather.
weather,
Yes.
okay. Single parent,
Family.
very good. Showering,
Weather.
Weather.
good. Arrogant,
Personality.
extended family,
Family.
okay. Now, can you tell me why do you think each word matches the right category? Why do you think, for example, you can put showering not in the family or personality but in showering?
It is not related to this.
It's
Okay,
the
it is
process. It
not-
shows the process.
Because it is related.
Exactly.
It is related to
Because of
that.
the weather.
Very good. So, then can you tell me, scorching, what is the synonym for that?
Hot. Boiling.
Boiling. So can you see outside?
No.
Is it scorching today?
Today.
Yes, we can say it is scorching today.
Yeah.
Good. Showering means
Raining.
Has a lot of rain. When do we usually have showering weather?
Spring or
Spring.
sometimes.
Very good. Single parent means
Only one. Father.
a mother or a father. Extended family is.
It's a large family consists of father, mother,
So what
grandfather.
is the opposite of that?
Nuclear family.
And why did you put Arabic after this personality?
Yeah.
It shows personality.
The way the person behaves.
Behaves.
shows
Okay.
her
So
personal
what do you
traits.
think? What is the synonym for that? Or what is the adjective? Selfish maybe?
Self-centered.
Okay, self-centered.
Modest is the
Modest is the opposite of that. Okay. So these are the words that you may face in your article when you read it. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So now, can you please tell me what were the ways I used while I was eliciting the vocabulary, the blocking vocabulary?
In order to how to remembering them,
Mm-hmm.
the way of
So-
remember.
Okay, how did I use, like, for example, what did I use? If you remember, like, the first word, like, I taught, like, I listed the word, what was that? Result. Yes, I use CCQs, I provide situation, and ask students, like, when they hear the word result, what do they have in their imagination? What do they think of? And what comes to their mind, okay? Yes, Mary is writing, like, to catch more better. So Gunoro is writing, like, providing, yes, this is also, at the same time, we can say this was providing situation. Yes, I provide the situation for them. And also, yes, through association, they associated the word, like something like with the word, in order, yes, no, collocation, it was not collocation, but I kind of provide a definition for them and then I elicit it from them. Yes, I break the words into parts, for example, roots and affixes. Like some students can, for example, work with that in order to understand some confusing or complicated vocabulary. And this way, it helps them to remember the word and to make it easier for them for the reading. Okay. So this was a way how I usually do pre-teaching. And if you have any questions, I am happy to hear from you. Any questions, to answer them.
So, dear teachers, dear followers, please use this chance to ask your questions. We are opening the floor to Q&A session. You can write your questions in Facebook comments or here in Zoom in the chat box.
Okay.
So we have one question from a Facebook follower. The question is, can we use any types of peer collaborations and peer tutoring for pre-teaching vocabulary?
Yes, you can use any of them. All of them, I think, in order to teach, like you can use any of them. All of them are, they make your, they make your students' life easier, like they understand something in a very easy way.
So did you had this experience of using peer collaborations and peer tutoring in your teaching practice?
Yes, I did peer collaboration, like co-teaching, you mean, yes? Co-teaching?
Didn't specify, maybe co-teaching mere students peer to peer.
Yes, can you clarify? I understood like co-teaching, like with other teachers. Yes, for example, when two teachers are co-teaching, one teacher, for example, at the beginning, she or he pre-teach the blocking vocabulary in this way. For example, he can provide the situation, and then elicit the words, or he can provide some pictures, or he ask them like to elicit the words through their association. So this is possible to use them.
We have another question, and the question is, what kind of pre-testing for students to understand what vocabulary to teach you can suggest? Or you yourself select your vocabulary according to your knowledge of the group you are teaching to?
Yes, of course, as I already mentioned, you should select vocabulary that it should be relevant to the, first of all, to the level of the students. And of course, we do not select all of them because it takes time, first of all, and it may be very boring for them. But of course, you have to select some words, for example, not more than 5. 5 will be maximum, and then you can elicit them.
5 words maximum. So we will remember this formula. Another question comes from Gulnaro Mirzawafoyeva. How do you reinforce your students' long-term memory on the vocabulary they have learned?
Okay, I usually, like, my favorite one is providing situation and also miming. Miming, it is as you know, like, what was that? Total physical response. Like they do action, or I do action, and with this I elicit the word, and students never forget the word. They always remember. They can make fun of it even, and they never forget this.
Thank you. So traditionally, teachers do not pre-teach vocabulary. They just read the text very often and then find what new words students face during their reading. So why pre-teaching vocabulary is important, why we need to change this paradigm from reading, then finding new vocabulary, to finding new vocabulary and understanding those words, then reading the text.
Okay, very good. So sometimes the text, if for example the texts are too long, and it becomes a little bit boring when they, for example, yes, of course, sometimes they can deduce the meaning from the first they read, and then they deduce the meaning from the context. But for children especially, it would be very boring if they know some very good, if you select some vocabulary which is relevant to their knowledge, and you think that it would be very difficult for them to understand, first read and then do, you can just select them, and that's why it will be interesting for them to read or to do the task further.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. And we have a question from Maria Nurkhonova. Can we use labeling in pre-teaching?
Okay, this is also a very good way of pre-teaching vocabulary. Of course, you can have, for example, on the board you can write the name of the word, and on the cards, for example, you can write there may be the definition, and then you can label them. This is also another way of pre-teaching. Yes, yes, you can use it.
And the next question, how do you teach isolated vocabulary, especially the ones which students do not often meet in their daily life?
Okay. Isolated, like complicated one, you mean? So they've never seen these words, yes, in their life. Okay, like I can, for example, I can bring the picture of these blocking vocabulary and show to them. Or another way, like provide them some situation. And I think the best way for teaching isolated vocabulary, it is showing the picture. And they can, for example, look at this picture, and then maybe they try to find some synonyms for that, which, for example, may be something similar in their culture or something like that. And this will, or maybe stick them on the board, right? And stick them on the board, and till the end of the class, they remain there, and they always look at that, and they will remember it.
Thank you, thank you. When pre-teaching new vocabulary, do you usually use these word walls or word clouds or word families so that students do learn not only one single word from the word family, but other words too, or some useful collocations or some useful
Yes.
phrases? So you do that?
Yes, usually, for example, the idioms and a lot of less collocated words we usually teach, for example, this way, like maybe through providing some definition to them. And
so Mihri is asking which types of teaching of vocabulary is easier for students to grasp new words?
as I already mentioned, that through miming, through miming and also picture. Picture always, for example, it helps them to understand the meaning very well, and they will never forget about the word. Like they just need to see these words with their own eyes, and then maybe you can ask them to mime it.
We usually publish different teaching activities and teaching tips on our social media pages, and we had this miming activity poster as well. We usually take some activities from the Monsters book of activities, and yes, this is really useful and easy to use activity. So we have another question from Marhabo. Do you usually use any games to review the words, to help them remember the words? And what are the most favorite games of your students?
Okay, so you mean before starting something or after?
So she wrote for reviewing, probably after the...
After, of course, yes. There are a lot of games. For example, like we can, for example, put put the words on the cards, and then make the circle, and they take these words, and they, for example, they try to say something about this word. How did they understand? For example, maybe they provide the definition for that, or they provide synonyms or antonyms. This is one way. And some other, they use balls, for example. After, for example, I taught the vocabulary before, and after we did the article, we did the text, I asked them to do one game, for example. I give them ball, they threw the ball, and for example, one repeat the word, the new learned vocabulary, and threw the ball to another person, another student. And another students again say another word from the reading, or from what I've taught already, and this continues the same till the end.
Yes, very easy games and very useful, and students probably love them because to involve some physical activity, and children always love when some physical exercises are during the classes. So the next question is, do you use the first language of students when neither of strategies work? Or did you have this kind of experience when you try to explain, to teach vocabulary in several ways, not using native language of students, but nothing works, and then you have to use the first language?
Yes, of course, it depends on the level of the students. And if, for example, the students, for example, came from a very, how to say, remote place, and then they've never learned English in their life, not all the time I can use English. Of course, I can use, for example, pre-starter, I can use the pictures with the words. And I also can use kind of classroom language, like listen, speak, and things like that. And but I do not all the time, but sometimes I need to explain them.
Yes, this always happens. We have the next question, also from Facebook followers. So, dear Zoom participants, be more active. The question is, which method is the best, in your opinion, for remembering new words?
New vocabulary. Okay. The best thing it is like when you mime. Miming is, for example, you show the action. This is the best way, which helps student understand the meaning of the word. I think this is my kind of opinion about that.
And I don't know if you ever used this activity. There is an activity when you divide students into two groups, and one group is miming the dialogue, and the another group is trying to voice the dialogue, trying to show some intonations, some emotions through their voice, and this could be also useful during remembering new words, for remembering new words. Yes.
Yes. Recently, I taught summer school group, and the theme was about past continuous. Then I gave them cards with the verb, and they mime it. For example, waving, circling, and things like that. And then some of them were showing the action, they were miming. Some other I asked, like, what is, for example, Amir was doing, what Amir was doing, and then I just elicited it and I write it on the board. So this is also a good way, like miming, I think, is the best way.
Thank you. So the next question comes from Bakhti Begim. Do you combine simple and academic words in your lesson, and do they appeal to students?
Combine? Okay, once again, do you
combine simple and academic words in your lessons, and do they appeal to students?
Yes. Sometimes, like, we need to, for example, avoid some complicated words which are not relevant maybe to the, how to say, and we have to combine them. Like, some words are simple, you know that they understand it, not all of them, but some of them understand it, but still I have to elicit it, I have to pre-teach it, and I elicited the way that it will be more clear for them, and it is interesting for all students.
I remember when I was a student, we had really good English teachers at our university, and when we had some reading as homework, our instructor asked one student to prepare a quiz for the group before the text comes. The instructor chose the student who will prepare the quiz, short quiz for 5 or 7 minutes, and that one student had to choose the new words that she or he thinks will be new for other students as well, not only for him or for her. And then we prepared the quiz, and we gave definitions to students, or the instructor somehow elicited the meaning of the new words to students. And then after the elicitation, we had that quiz. And then not only that person who had prepared the quiz knew the words best of others, but others also had to learn those words, because those quiz was very important for the final marks, and everybody tries to listen carefully and to participate actively to understand what new words mean, because they knew that after the elicitation there will be a quiz for sure.
Yeah, okay, good.
So it is also a kind of peer-to-peer teaching, say. Yes. So the next question it comes again from Facebook. How do you help your students to develop their vocabulary on their own?
Okay, usually, for example, students have special notebooks where they record whatever they have learned. And I ask them, like, if, for example, if it is a problem for most of the students, like to learn by heart the vocabulary, I ask them like to just write it on the piece of paper, on the sticks, on the stickers, and they can at home stick it on their walls. And every day when they go home, they just look at that and they, for example, learn it. And also, there is another way I always tell my students, like when we have learned a new vocabulary in each lesson, they, for example, go home, they make sentences with them, or they speak for a while, they record themselves, and when they come to the class, they can show this recording to each other, and they count how many words did they use in their, for example, in their while they were speaking.
Good, thank you. The next question from Maria Nurkhonova. How to make teaching vocabulary funny?
Of course, through the games, like they go, for example, after teaching everything, they go back, and so, for example, they make a circle, and they can use different things, for example, balls, and also there are a lot of activities with vocabulary. For example, cards they can use in order to make your, how to say, the lesson funny, or the teaching vocabulary funny. You can use these games.
Everybody loves games, adults and children, no matter. So we have another question from Mihri. How to teach the students more than 10 words in a lesson?
Oh, more than 10 words, it is not possible. I think it would be a little bit boring for students. As I already mentioned, just select a maximum of 5 is enough. 5 of them are enough, like, but not more than that. So 5 of them, like, maybe you can ask some of these, like, if some are left, you can ask them to do it at home. Maybe they can, for example, categorize them. They can provide some definition, looking up on the dictionary and find the meaning of the word. And they can come up with their own, like, they provide their own definition. How did they understand it? And but not more, not 10. I think it is too much.
Yes, thank you. So, Khayriniso, you gave us a lot of tips on how to pre-teach vocabulary, but what are some don'ts while pre-teaching vocabulary? What teachers should avoid doing while pre-teaching vocabulary in normal English and in academic English?
Like what are the things that we should not do? It is, as I already mentioned, select like important vocabulary, and also there should be 5 words, and that's it. And also there should be interesting, something like especially for the children, like you should do it through the game, maybe, as we already I already told you, like through game, through miming. And I think these are the things that each teacher should avoid. Not talking about a lot of words, but just some words.
The most important for understanding the meaning of the text. I see. So let's see if there are more questions in Facebook. And yes, there are more questions in Facebook. Today, our audience in social media is very active. Thank you, dear followers. So the question is, which games is important for reaching vocabulary you recommend us? You already mentioned some games. Yes, I think the follower can revise our webinar later and see what games we recommended, because we will post the recorded webinar on our Facebook page. So if somebody missed something or missed the entire webinar, teachers and all interested can always come back to our page and see the webinar there. So Khayriniso, thank you very much for your time, for your effort, for your dedication, for sharing this presentation with us. It was really interesting, lots of useful tips, practical tips that can be used for pre-teaching vocabulary and for pre-teaching vocabulary at academic levels. Thank you very much for being with us today, for doing this webinar for English Without Borders members. We really appreciate it, and we have lots of words of gratitude in Zoom and in Facebook. I believe our audience really loved today's webinar. We will hope to have more webinars with you in the future. So once again, thank you. And dear followers, please have a nice day, have a nice evening, and see you next time, next Thursday, on our regular series of EWB webinars. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your attention.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.